Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to the Susie L. McMahon, that's me, Virtual Book Club. We're here tonight with two authors. We're going to talk with Jenny first, and Francine is my group expert. She's here tonight to start us all off with reading our featured author's bio. Francine, take it away.
Thank you, Susie, and welcome, Jenny. So
Thank you.
glad you're with us. I'm going to read your bio. Before Jenny Hall-Apicella, I hope I pronounced that right. I probably didn't, and I apologize if I didn't, began her second career as a writer. She spent 30 years as a counseling psychologist. She was a senior psychologist in the New York City court system, a consultant for mental health agencies, and had a successful private practice. Her profession gave her great insight into fictional characters and left her with thousands of personal life stories in her head. Besides editing a local History Foundation newsletter, she has published several short stories. She enjoys being a docent at a historic church and the ruins of an antebellum mansion. In addition to being a history nerd, Jenny enjoys gardening, poker, reading, and competitive croquet. She lives with her husband in Beaufort, South Carolina, and a huge welcome to Jenny and her
Thank
book,
you.
Even a Sparrow.
Thank you.
There, I'm trying to hold it up. I've got the weird background, so it's doing funny. It's a beautiful cover. I love the way
Thank you.
the light pops.
Mhm.
Welcome, Ginny. And why don't we go ahead and just introduce our gentleman joining us, and then we'll bring him in at about 20 minutes in. Tell us who's joining us as well, Ginny.
I have asked a fellow writer, John McElroy. He goes by the name Mac. I met Mac in another writers group where we had a lot of fun. And when the group, we had a leader, and when he was finished with the sessions that we was doing, we all just liked each other well enough that we kept it going. And so I've known John for maybe 2 or 3 years now, and I love his short stories, and I thought it would be good to share them with other people. I think right now a lot of people read novels, but I know when I see a novel that's 750 pages, I don't want I don't want any part of that. I'm too old to do that.
Mhm.
But short stories just fill that little bit of hearing a story told, but not investing your life in it. And that's why I wanted to bring on Mac, who has
Mac,
written some
welcome.
short stories.
Welcome. Where are you sitting, Mac? Are you in South Carolina?
Sorry?
Are you in South Carolina?
Yeah, Hilton Head.
Hilton Head, fantastic.
Yeah. In a
Wonderful.
in a in an almost we just moved about 4 weeks ago. So if you would go to the left and then right, you'd see nothing but boxes and a mess.
Well, welcome, welcome. And Jenny,
Thank you.
are you in Beaufort tonight, Jenny?
I am.
Today? Okay. So I'm over in Scotland.
South
That's
Carolina.
why I'm wearing my memorial tartan. I've got a little bit, my background doesn't match with where I'm physically sitting. I just had a lovely dinner with my Airbnb host. Her name's Susan, and her dad, who's almost 80 years old. And it's just so fun sitting around a dinner table with people from another country and finding out what we all have in common. But with all of that, let's get to talking about Even a Sparrow. And I think, based on what I just said, Jenny, it's been a long time since you joined us with Donna Armour recommending you to our group. Can you just give us a little bit of backstory about why you wrote this book, and maybe pull in a little bit of the foreign flair and the fact that the story revolves around people immigrating to the United States.
Okay, so I've always been a history nerd, as Francine said, and it's because of my dad. My dad loved history, and so like every week he would take us to. I lived in Rochester, New York, and but every week we'd go to an old mill or the Erie Canal or someplace to learn a little bit of forts, Fort Ticonderoga. So we'd always have that history kind of thing. So the other thing he would say was that we were pioneers of Rochester. And I didn't know what that meant. And then after my dad passed away and one of my uncles did, my mother said to me, "Do you want this?" And it was a piece of paper that certified that we were pioneers of Rochester, New York. And because I didn't know what my dad really meant by that. And it was that on the centennial of Rochester's incorporation in 1934, they had asked people if they thought that they were original settlers to write like a story about their family. And so here was this whole story written about how my fourth great grandparents, Johann Baptist and Anna Clem, left Baden, which later became Germany, and crossed France, crossed the ocean. There's a mutiny on the ship. So instead of going to New York, they went to Canada and had to go down the St. Lawrence River, Quebec, and Montreal, and finally they ended up in Rochester, New York in 1816. And so I got that whole story, and and it was like brewing in my head. And finally, after I retired, I said, I'm going to write this story, but I don't know who these people were really. And I don't know all the details. I don't know the name of the ship or anything, so I'm going to have to make it all up. And so that's why it's historical fiction based on real people. And that's
Fantastic.
the backstory.
That's lovely. And how long did it take you to write your whole novel? It's probably,
Well, I was writing it in the third person, and I had much, much too historical detail in there, but I liked it because I like history. But one of my friends read it and said, this is kind of boring. And it was during COVID. It was right at the beginning of COVID. And so I read it myself. I reread, I was about 3/4 finished with the book. And I read it and I said, she's right. It's kind of boring.
oh
And
no.
I'm a psychologist. I should be able to get into these people's heads. So I rewrote it. And that's why I wrote it in three people. We hear three people. We hear Anna, we hear Johann, and we hear the daughter.
Wonderful.
That
So,
was so the answer to the question is it took me longer than it should have because I rewrote it.
right.
I would say probably 5 to 6 years, but I didn't really know what I was doing when I started writing a novel. I didn't know how to write a novel, so it was learning on the way.
Mhm. Well, congratulations for getting it done, and
Thank you.
congratulations for taking someone's feedback like that and being able to pivot. I think if I receive that kind of feedback, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm not doing it. That's the way it goes. Francine, do you have a question for Jenny?
I do. I have a couple. First of all, I admire that she pivoted and redid it and took that criticism. I'm like Susie. I'm like, I'm done. I wouldn't. I don't. I'm not going to do this. But anyway, who was the hardest character to write? And then second part, did you write the book from start to finish, or did you do it in parts?
I'm not a very disciplined writer, so it was in parts just because I would get an inspiration and I'd do a chapter, and then I might sit for a week and not even open the computer again, at least that part. So it didn't flow as smoothly as I would have liked. I don't know if there was a difficult character. I had to create characters because I needed people to talk about the history because Anna and Johann wouldn't have known the history, for example, when they go to Quebec.
Right.
So,
Right.
but I wanted to include it because that's a important part of the setting is so important. So I had to invite characters who would say, "Oh, by the way, this is the Jesuit seminary over here, and the British did this to us, and blah blah blah." So that was kind of fun. Actually, I liked creating the characters.
That's good. Are you sad that you're done with them? Like I always.
Well, I'm not because I'm working on the sequel.
Oh,
Hey, do you have
Yeah.
do you know when that will be out yet? Or will you let
I
us
have
know as
no
soon as
idea.
possible?
My goal was to have it written, the first draft, by October. Looks like it may be more like November or December, but or this one is flowing a lot easier. I feel like I know what I'm doing more.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting. I love books with sequels, so
Mhm.
that's great.
that's
The
Oh,
sequel
fantastic.
is mostly about Anna.
okay. And then can I ask another question?
Of course you can.
Thank you. Did you pick out this gorgeous cover? Like I love that.
Thank you. I knew what I wanted a bit. Most historical novels, if you look at them, they'll have a picture of the backs of people. So that was
Uh-huh.
kind of, but it's kind of a trope. It's kind of been done. And I
Mhm.
discussed with my publisher and editor that I wanted to do that, but I said, I don't want them that only to be that. And then the book designer gave me all these different options, and I was like, I like this, I don't like that. And but one of them, she had that picture of the sunset, and I said, I definitely want that. That's dramatic to me. But we have to put a boat in there because they cross the ocean. And let's put some people. But we had to tweak the people quite a bit to make them look more period. So it was kind of a joint process. And then I finally, but I was happy with it.
I think you all nailed it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't agree, Susie? Look at that.
I agree. I love it. And I just love the way the sun is setting. And I like your font as well. I mean, little
Yeah.
things like that help a book hop off the shelves. So a question that I have for you around, did you launch your book in Beaufort, or have you done like a book tour?
I
Or
launched my book in the community where I live, Data,
uh-huh.
and I had probably 85 people there, which I was really surprised at. So that was good. But since then, I've done many book clubs, and I did the Pat Conroy Center did a book club convention, and I was a speaker there.
Mhm.
And I've done two Zooms, one in Pennsylvania and the other in, where was it, New York? That people who read the book asked me to do it. So that was great.
That's nice. And what is the most rewarding part for you being now a published author? Is it the fact that your story is out there, or is it when you meet with groups, or is it, hey, I get to write another book? What is most motivating
Well,
to you?
this is total vanity, but when people tell me they've read it and they've really liked it, then I say, okay. Because, as I said, this is a second career. I mean, I'm a lifelong reader, so I knew what to me is good writing and what isn't, but that's not necessarily being able to do it yourself. So when people tell me they've enjoyed it, then I like to hear that.
Fantastic. I would want people to like what if I were a writer, of course, good feedback. Francine, ask one more question and then we're going to bring John into the mix.
Okay. I am fascinated by your first career because at the last 10 years, I've considered going back to school to be a psychologist. And so I applaud you to doing a second career. I mean, to write a book, I think that's fantastic. Did you when you started writing the book, did you ever think that you would get to do all these book clubs and a book launch? And did you just think, oh, this is just going to be okay and not exciting like it really was? Is it better than you thought it would be?
I think it's better than I thought.
It is.
Excuse me. I thought, some friends and families would buy the book and that would be it.
Be
But,
it. Okay. Well,
when
you
I
should.
find that people from California have read it, then it's very gratifying.
Yeah.
And if
Well, you
it's
should.
by word of mouth, that's really nice.
And social media, because I'm going to post all about this, and I
Well, thank
think,
you.
well, of
Because
course. I
I'm not
mean,
great at social media, so whatever
you're
you
not.
do, I appreciate.
Oh, I love posting about authors, like
Okay,
way
great.
more than almost as much as I do my grandchildren, but especially authors and supporting them. But and have you thought about coming to Richmond for a book event? I mean, so there's a lot of
Well, is
history
that where
here.
you are, Francine?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
Well, I guess I'm going to have to put that on my calendar then.
I think so. Either my home or I have a great bookstore here. So either
Oh,
one.
great.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So that keep
Sure.
that in mind. So the second book you don't know when is coming out.
I do
Um,
not.
but you'll keep us posted on that.
I can tell you a little bit what it's about, though.
We would love to hear about it. Yes,
Go for
please.
it.
So, Anna has another child, her first American baby, after they arrive in Rochester. And she wants to have the baby baptized in a Catholic church, but there's no Catholic church. So and this again is a true story that we have found out. So she announces at breakfast one day that she's taking the baby to Albany to have the baby baptized because she's heard there's a Catholic church there. And so the young son, Bernard, whom I'm directly related from. That's my lineage comes from Bernard. Um, goes with her, and they cross. They kind of follow what will be the route of the Erie Canal, and to get to Albany, 200 miles, in order to have the baby baptized. And of course, they're going to have adventures along the way. So,
Oh, that's going to be another great book. Yeah. And I love the fact that your dad instilled all this learning at a young age in you and took you to places, because that's a prime example of how teaching little ones about
mhm,
books and museums and things, just
mhm,
things, I love hearing that. So
mhm.
I'm glad you shared that. That's great.
Thank
It's
you.
fantastic. It's fantastic. And I remember that story now from when we first met with Donna and when you were talking. So you must have been writing the second book back then. So I
I
recall,
may have just started then. Yeah,
yeah,
I knew that if I was going to write a second book, that what it was going to be. And because so many people told me, "Oh, well, I want to know what happened," I said, "Well, here's the next
there it comes.
episode that I know about."
Here it comes. Fantastic. Well, we already had you introduce our gentleman joining us tonight, and I wanted to kind of backtrack a little bit and just have you remind everyone how you met. I think you briefly said that, and then I'm going to have John ask you, or Mac, is that the best way I'm supposed to recall? McElroy. I feel like I'm talking to a golfer. Anyway, Rory. So I'm going to have him ask you a question, you ask him a question, and then Francine and I will jump in and intervene, um, elaborate on the conversation. But go ahead, I'm going to give you the floor, Jenny, and let's make sure we can see Max sitting up nice and tall on the screen. Go for it.
Well,
I'm like staring at a white screen that says Zoom. So you're going to have to keep
Oh,
me centered.
well, I'm
okay.
holding
You're
up his
centered
book, but
now,
I don't know if
yes.
it's coming out very well.
You need to pull it in front of your face, where your face is. There you go. And then, whoop.
Okay?
Yeah, these
That's,
background blur things are not good for showing something. So he can show it. There it
oh,
goes.
yeah,
Eh,
yeah,
What happens probably, whatever happens probably will is what I'm
right.
seeing. Right on.
So, as I said, I met Mac at a writers group, and we had this challenge that every week we had to write a 750-word story. And so the week would go by and we'd meet again, and you'd have to have a 750-word story. And so I got very used to Mac's voice. He has a very and I mean the voice in his writing, not his physical voice. Very heartwarming stories, and his language was beautiful. And so we all kept in touch in this group, and we just continued to write. And Mac just took off with it and wrote this book, which I'm sorry, I can't hold up better. Whatever happens, probably will. And it's a series of short stories that he wrote. And as I said, they're all very heartwarming stories with interesting characters. And this book was a finalist in the 2021 Coker Fiction Fellowship, and also was a finalist at International Book Awards. And Mac can tell you the Forbes story as well. So here's my question for you, Mac. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. I can
Okay.
barely hear. Shout
So
it out.
I had this background story to write my novel. How do you get the ideas for your stories?
I have to repeat that a little bit louder.
I said I already knew a background stories for my novel, something that had happened to my family. How do you get your ideas for your short
Well,
stories?
that's a great question. I write short stories, so I really don't have to think elaborately in terms of either the backstory or the arc of the story or the narration. Uh, and I don't think I have a terribly well-developed imagination. But I answered this question in another interview that I was a lawyer in another universe. Perhaps I have a little keener sense of observation rather than imagination. And I just kind of tend to look at things see things, bump into things, hear conversations, and that'll just give me a thought that kind of, rattles around in the brain. And Jenny, I think we talked about this in one of those writing groups. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, quite literally, and boom, I have an idea, and I'd trundle out and pound it out, because a short story, it just kind of develops in 4 or 5 or 6 pages. But I'd say more observation. And in my collection, and I think this is probably true of a lot of fiction writers, there are 2 or 3 or 4 stories that come pretty directly from personal experience or close experiences. So observation probably trumps imagination, and personal experience it kind of comes in second.
Very nice. Very nice. And Mac, would you follow up with a question for Jenny?
Yeah, Jenny, I want to go back to our group, because that was really our formative, at least for me, a formative time. And it seemed to me that much of what we were doing in that grouping were the short stories. And I think you mentioned the 750 words. And I remember we all kind of learned writing in the short form, but you jumped into the novel. How hard was that? I put that in this context. I have the attention span of a gerbil. I couldn't make that transition. If you asked me to write a novel, I couldn't do it. It seems to me that you mastered that leap. How did you do it?
Well,
were
I
you
mean, if
ever
you think of
tempted
each
to
chapter
stay in the
as kind of
short story zone?
yeah, if you think of each chapter as kind of a short story, because there's usually like a natural break, then you're starting the next short story, the next segment, but you have the same characters. You haven't changed your characters.
Sure.
You have different people, but they just keep on going. So whereas you in your story about Duke's mayonnaise, where the end was that we find out he eats the sandwich for a particular reason, you guys will read this story. It's a great story. And if you had just gone on with that same character, what else did he do besides eating the sandwich? Who else? What happens when he leaves the restaurant? That's the kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you just
Well,
keep going with that guy's life. Just doesn't end with that sandwich eating.
uh,
I know that's very provocative. You guys will have to read this
Can't
story now.
wait.
Me either, since I'm a Duke fan of mayonnaise.
Okay, yeah.
Jenny, this might be interesting for the Zoom audience. One of our colleagues in our group, Jane Addams, has talked to me about kind of the next step from short stories, kind of the intermediate step from the short story, between the short story and the novel, is the short story cycle. In other words, it's almost like a novel in short stories, and that's a whole new kind of development, which might be interesting. It kind of takes those characters. It doesn't quite have the same symmetry as a novel, but it has recurring characters. But I still have the attention span of a gerbil. I won't get there.
I used to have a gerbil when I was little. They're quite cute little critters. So, but they've got to have small little brains, that's for sure. So I'm sure yours is larger and more.
I'm not sure about that.
Anyway, Francine, I want you to ask Jenny and Mac a question, please.
I'm going to ask both of you, and I'll start with Jenny. What do you all like to read when you're not writing a book? What do you like to read for pleasure? I might already know Jenny's answer, but go ahead. And then,
well, you probably
John.
do. It's historical fiction,
Mm-hmm.
not psych books, although I still have those, around me. But I thought someone might ask me, because people have asked me before my favorite authors. So I actually made a list.
Oh, good. Who is it? Share, please.
So Maggie O'Farrell, who wrote Hamnet and The Marriage Portrait, wonderful book. Anne Patchett, a lot of books. Yeah, she's great. Paulette Giles is one of my favorite, and she wrote News of the World and a whole bunch of series of books about Texas, Texas in the 1800s, like post-Civil War.
Mhm.
And short stories, I think I like Alice Munro. She's classic, and Annie Proulx has written some short stories that I really like. So, and I didn't realize about most of the people I like are women writers. So I don't know if that was um, accidental, but so it is.
That's just the way it is. How about you, John?
It
What do you
is
like to read?
Yeah,
because
you
I
know,
guess it makes me
I
more apt
probably
to write
read
historical fiction.
much more before I started writing, which is kind of ironic. I was a lawyer, as I said, in another universe, and I kind of, up to here in terms of reading. But yeah, I tend to like lighter stuff, kind of easy novels. Nelson DeMille. I mean, he's got some interesting things.
Yeah.
Richard Ford, I think, is one of the great writers. He migrated from short stories to novels. I don't do really any historical fiction, which I regret. My wife does that, and they're pretty fascinating. But I really wish I did more writing. But writing, or more reading, writing's kind of taken over that space.
I do understand that because my husband is a lawyer. He's retired, but he always says he can't read books because he read his whole life for work, and he's like doesn't get it into reading. So anyway,
Yeah.
I just am fascinated by you were a lawyer, you're a psychologist, and you all go on to do these other careers. I mean, how cool is that? That is just, I just love it. That's anyway, I do. I love it.
It's fantastic. I have a follow-up question for each of you. So when you decided to take the jump and to become a writer, what kind of mindset did you do? How did you do your day? Did you, it sounds like Max said he wakes up in the middle of the night and has an idea. So then their short story comes. Jenny, were you more organized and saying, okay, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to have my coffee and read a little bit? I think of Pat Conroy, and we know that he would read 700 words or something in poetry before he would even put pen to paper. Tell me about what, we'll start with Jenny, what your writing day, what your life looked like when you decided to actually become an author officially.
Okay, well, first of all, I had to have a friend of mine say to me, write down like 200 times, I am a writer, I am a writer. And I'm like, no, I'm just a person who writes. But she says, no, you're a writer, write it down, I am a writer. So after that discipline. But as I said, I'm not all that disciplined. I like to do a lot of things. I play croquet. I love to walk. I garden. I do a lot of things. So actually, my downtime is usually in the evening. So that's when I will, after dinner, I'll come up to my little room, and that's when I'll do my best writing. And then I don't want to stop. And then I look at the clock and say, oh my God, I got to go to bed. But that's my most productive time.
Really, that's wonderful. And is that still the case from
That's still
start,
the
like
case.
still
Yep.
still your day? And
Mhm.
Mac, what's your day look like when you decide to write?
As I said, and he nailed it. I'm much more episodic. Um, when you write a short story, the idea is there. One of the critics of short stories said it's a story told in a tight place. So boom, I kind of try to get in and get out. So if I've got an idea and I just carve out a little bit of time, I can get the job done. Um, that said, I guess where I would invest my discipline, and boy, I hate to use that term in the story, is it was very important that I do work, for example, with Penny's group, White Oak Writers. I also joined the Island Writers Network down here on the island. I've been a member of that now for about 8 years. And in the early part of my writing, I would go religiously to workshops, critiques, and meetings just to get surrounded by people who were actually writing. And I think without that support and without that discipline, I probably never would have been able to cobble together 18 stories that I think at least had enough merit to cobble into a collection of stories. So that's where my discipline came, really the work effort.
Wonderful. And don't you find that the writer. This is what I've found for now 5 years of doing this. I can't believe we've been doing this, Francine, for 5 years, but we have. I mean, goodness gracious. So we started in 2020, and I just find that the author, writer, reader community is one of great support, and lots of best practices in life are shared, I think, very unselfishly within the community. Occasionally I'll run into someone who seems to be promote, 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 and that's all they want to do when we're on one of these conversations. And I understand the whole goal is to sell more books and to have people read your book, but it's also just really special when we can just see how we are the same as humans and what we enjoy and what might be going on in our lives, that reading a good short story or reading a historical fiction novel can kind of ebb away. Virginia, I mean, excuse me, I keep calling Francine Virginia because you're in Virginia. That's like, I'm getting confused. Anyway, Francine, I want you to ask the two authors a question, and then we're going to have them ask each other one more, and then we'll be close to our 40-minute mark. Go for it, Francine.
Thank you, Susie. I will answer to anything. It's fine. I think I got so excited in the beginning, Jenny, that I forgot to tell you that I really did love your book. I didn't like it. I loved it.
Thank you.
When I just said, oh my gosh, I forgot to tell her how much I liked her book. So thank you very much.
Can I ask you a question? Did you
yes,
have a
of
favorite
course.
character?
Well, Anne, kinda, I guess.
Okay.
But you know, it's hard for me to have favorites because I usually like everybody. And I was really glad that I did not like somebody, because it's hard sometimes read books when some of the characters are not nice people. So, and
well, there were not nice people in my book because they had to be there to
balance it out.
Exactly. So Jenny, do you miss your prior career with, I mean, psychologist? That is such important work. I don't want to digress from the book community, but I think we can all acknowledge that we're also in a mental health crisis in this country. And I mean, I am very aware of it, and it's so sad. Do you ever miss that career, like helping people? Because I'll bet you were one fantastic counselor. Like, I just can imagine coming in and spilling my heart out to you just the few minutes we've been on here. Do you miss it at all?
Well, I did miss it. I did miss that aspect of it. And then I kept being recruited by all these online people. So and I still had an active license. I kept my license up. And so I actually decided, okay, let me see what this is all about. And so now I am seeing a few people online, one of the online counseling services. They don't pay much, I will tell you that, but I love my clients, so I just keep doing it.
I know, and there's so many people.
And I also don't like
the
the technology that's involved. There's a lot of technology that
I know. I'm not very tech savvy.
So I like dipping my finger in it a little bit more.
Okay, good. Well, I'm happy that you made the jump to the book, and I'm so excited for your next one. So you'll have to let us know, and we'll have to talk about getting you to Richmond.
All right.
Keep that on your plate. Now,
So
John. Okay, John, do you miss first of all, what was your career in law? What did you practice?
Well, interesting. Are you from Richmond, Virginia?
Yes, I am. I'm in heart of Richmond.
That's where I spent most of my time before Hilton Head. I started out in Richmond as an assistant attorney general, trial law and appellate law.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up this kind of inside Virginia. I ended up, after I left the AG's office, I was legislative counsel to a senator up in Washington. So I kind of went into the political legal world. Then I did some graduate work up at Harvard and ended up going into the business world. So I had kind of a circuitous route: law, business, some adjunct teaching, and then into writing. Other than being an assistant attorney general in Virginia, which I loved, law was okay. I found great passion in teaching as an adjunct. And I think, Jenny, you've done some of that too. And then now my passion is writing. My second passion is doing book clubs. So that invitation to Jenny can be replicated, I'd love to come to Richmond. I've got a lot of
Well, we,
friends there I need to see.
well, we can also host you too, either in my home or the bookstore that I dearly love has events. I help them promote, which they told me they were going to get my own parking place if I continued to do that. I was like, that's great.
What bookstore is that?
I hope a discount too.
Not yet. Book People of Virginia. It's not the Fountain Books downtown because I'm not a fan
I
of
missed your question because I threw the question back to you. That was a lawyer
Oh.
trick. I shouldn't have done that.
That's okay. No, I prefer to stay out in the suburbs versus going downtown. That's just me personally. But
Right.
please let me know and we can be in touch if you want to come to Richmond. I would love to host both
I'd love
of
to
you.
do it.
Maybe both of y'all can come together and we can just have one big party. So that would be great.
Great fun.
Sounds
So
good.
she keeps inviting all the guests, but she never invites me. I'm just kidding.
Hey,
Susan-
listen, when I met you in person in 2022, I gave you a blanket invite,
know, I know.
Susie. Anytime, we got plenty of room. You just don't want to come this week because the grandkids are here. So
Yeah.
any
I'll
other
wait.
time.
I'll wait till it's a little quieter.
Yeah,
in your
exactly.
house. Okay, so I
Yeah.
want Mac and Jenny to think of a profound question to ask one another, and that'll be our last questions, and then we'll do thank yous and goodbyes. So Jenny, you can ask Mac first.
Oh, profound.
Yeah, dig deep.
Okay. Do you ever wish that you had started out as a writer rather than as a lawyer?
Absolutely. And Jenny, I say this to my wife all the time. I say, gosh, I wish I'd been a writer. Started as a writer. And she looks at me and says, well, yeah, that's great for you. But, we wouldn't have had a roof over our head. And we wouldn't have had 3 square meals a day because you're not going to make a real living killing it, writing short stories. So, yeah, it all works out. I really wish that I'd found the passion because I love it. But I just don't think the way the publishing world is today, especially for short stories, you can't make a living at it, So no regrets, paid the bill, and now I write.
Fantastic.
No regret.
Fantastic. And Mac, what's your deep question for Jenny?
So this to me is one of the kind of the hard question, but it gets it ultimately, Jenny. What do you write for? Is it an inward satisfaction? Is it an outward? What's out there? Is it legacy? Leaving something? What's the fundamental driver in those dark days when it's hard to pen to paper?
Very interesting question. Well, legacy, maybe, because I'm telling the story of my family. Hopefully my children and grandchildren will read these stories. But more is because I enjoy it, I think. I like it
Yeah.
when I've come up with a phrase or a description or the inner thought of a character or something and, can get it down on paper the way I like it. It's kind of a personal satisfaction. But sometimes I just like doing the research a whole lot better than actually writing the book. So.
Yeah, after my trips here I spent several weeks in Croatia and now I'm in Scotland and I'm on a history stint and just looking, one of the guides I had, oh my gosh, he's written 4 books. So guess what he's going to be doing hopefully in the near future, having an international element to our virtual book club. But to see the genealogy tree that this man can do to 125 AD, I'm so envious because I can't go past, my grandparents. Need to do some more research and I'm sure I'll bust through that wall. But I think what you said about having a legacy of your family story and put in a written form is fantastic. Our generations need to know about who was here before us, don't we? Anyway.
And really how courageous they were to
Mhm.
leave the life behind. If someone comes from another country now, they know that in 6 hours they can get on a plane and be back again. But when people were coming to America, they left it all behind.
Right.
Mm.
Right. And didn't know what they were going to see on the other side.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
I want to thank Mac and Jenny and Francine for your 40 minutes of time today. Our virtual book club is going to love watching this on a replay. This being on Zoom is a little bit of a different technology. For me personally, I used to do this via StreamYard. So hopefully I can get this in a form that gets posted up in just a few hours to the virtual book club and on YouTube. And that's what I'll share with each of you to feel free to share with your loved ones, your followers, and all that kind of good stuff. Mac, I will be in touch with you to figure out when we can read your booklet of your book of short stories and do this again, and hopefully get a clearer connection for you so you can hear us better on Zoom.
Well, thank you so much. It's been great fun.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And Jenny, I hope to see you in Beaufort when I come. Maybe we can go out
Okay,
for a cup of coffee or wine or what
absolutely.
have you.
Right.
I'll be
Mhm.
back in September. And just keep in mind that I love to do literary events that coincide with travel. So whenever there's somebody that does some international stuff, I always want to put a bug in your ear and see maybe kind of like what Donna did with her group that she took over to Italy. That's something I find I'm going to want to do more of in the future. So thank you all for your time. Thanks everybody for watching. And next month we are going to go feature Sally Hanley again, bringing back the cozy mystery author. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Susie. Thank
Susie.
you,
Thank you,
Mac.
Vincent.
Thank you, Jenny.
See you,
This was
Mac.
Thank you.
so
Thank you so
fun.
much.
So much fun. I'm going to try to stop this. Let's see if I can do it successfully. End webinar for all. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.